everyone, Kyle Erickson here. Today I'm talking about a piece of tech that's kind of blown me away over the past couple of weeks. When I first looked at this without any information on what I could do with it, I was like, oh yeah, a 360 camera, neat. I think historically, if you're talking about 360 cameras, the immediate reaction is thinking of those 360 photos and videos where you can scroll around the image or the video, which is still cool, but outside of like street maps or real estate, there's probably not a whole lot of real world uses for those. If you fast forward to present day, the technology and use cases for 360 cameras has grown much more outside of the bounds of just taking 360 photos and video clips, and a camera like this is really a creative powerhouse and an amazing piece of tech. So with that said, let's dive in. This is the Insta360 ONE X2, so the second generation ONE X 360 degree camera. It weighs 149 grams and is roughly 4.5 by 11 by 3 centimeters. So super easy to handle and throw in your pocket and travel around with. It's packed with a bunch of features in a nice small form factor. There's a mic on each side of the camera so you can get a full 360 degree audio recording. Along the right side, you have your USB-C charging port. Below that is a removable battery. And just underneath the battery is where your micro SD card sits. As far as SD cards go, you want to make sure that you're using at least a V30 class card. And these do have a storage limit up to 1 terabyte. Just a side note there, can you believe that you can put 1 terabyte of information on a card this small? I remember massive hard drives used to store like 250 megabytes. Anyway, opposite the side of the SD card and the battery, you have a speaker and your power button, and along the bottom you have a 1/4 inch thread for attaching this to a tripod or to the Insta360 invisible selfie stick. Then along the back and the front, you obviously have your camera lenses that are stabilized by a 6-axis gyroscope. And just below the cameras on the front, you have a shutter button and the touchscreen display. That shutter button is the only thing that I did find a little bit confusing out of the box. If you have the ONE X2 turned off and you just click that shutter button, it'll start recording, which is a little bit strange to me. That seems like it might lead to some inadvertent recording sometimes. In any case, I'd say it's not a huge deal. The touchscreen is really well thought out. For those of you familiar with the first generation ONE X, it had a screen but no actual camera image preview like the ONE X2, so I would say that this is a pretty huge upgrade. Surrounding that little camera preview, you have some menu items on the top. You have your battery life and recording time. To the left is your current lens mode. The right is your front and rear camera toggle, and the bottom shows your current camera mode. Swiping down from the top gives you access to the system modes. Swiping right shows the media gallery, while moving left has all the camera adjustment settings. Finally, swiping up will bring up your shortcuts menu. I found everything there to be pretty intuitive, and given the small space, it's pretty easy to navigate around and find things. Having that little preview screen, although it might not be huge, is great for things like seeing how well your image is exposed that I don't think that I could live without. When you're looking through the menu specifically at the camera settings, this does record in 5.7K 360 degrees at 24, 25, and 30 frames per second. And then if you drop down to 4K, you get 50 and 30 frames per second. And then 3K, you can go to 100 frames per second if you're looking for some slow motion footage. So there are plenty of options there, and I do like that you can go fully manual and adjust your shutter speed, white balance, and exposure. And you also have the option to shoot in HDR or a log profile if you want more dynamic range, which I was pleasantly surprised by. Of course, you can go fully auto if you want as well, but it's just super nice to have those options. If you are recording at 5.7K, you'll get about 2.5 hours of video on a 128 gig SD card. The battery will run for about 80 minutes or so, and it takes about 85 minutes to charge. If you feel like that isn't enough, you can buy more battery packs and charging accessories, but I know for me, 80 minutes has been just fine so far. There's definitely more specs that you can get into, but those are the ones that I think are most worth mentioning. I could probably spend forever talking about them, but I do want to hop into all the things that you can do with this camera because there are just so many possibilities here. In my opinion, you can effectively think of this as an action camera with a whole host of other features where you can get super creative with your footage. As you're probably aware from the beginning of this video, this camera is waterproof up to 10 meters, so it's really durable for a whole host of of conditions, and just with a few accessories, you can get a lot out of the ONE X2. I only have the invisible selfie stick and the motorcycle mount kit, which, don't let the name fool you, you can use this on much more than bikes. I've used that mount kit to attach this to my vehicle, and I've used the selfie stick a ton walking out and about, filming both myself and everything around me when I've been traveling out in different cities, and in every case it's worked amazingly well. Like I said before, it is a nice small form factor, so if you are traveling or carrying this around with you anywhere, it's really convenient. I know on my last trip, I didn't have any checked bags. I just threw this in my pocket, so it's not like you're really lugging anything around with you like with a camera and lenses. And because this is shooting with 360 video, it just gives you so much more versatility than a regular camera. With the ONE X2, I can effectively always get the right shot because it's recording everything around me. And when you take that and put it into a fully featured app like the one that Insta360 provides, it is a game changer. Normally when I do product reviews, if I'm talking about an app associated with a piece of tech that I'm reviewing, it's kind of a side note, like, oh look, this has a companion app where you can adjust these features. That's an added bonus. With this camera, that's totally not the case. The Insta360 app is effectively a fully featured editor, and where you can get really creative with your footage. You've got a fully editable timeline where you can cycle between different camera angles and aspect ratios, so great for not only traditional landscape video, but vertical video for sharing social content on TikTok or Instagram Reels. If I take this footage from my vehicle, for example, I can do multicam settings where I'm looking in the front and behind me at the same time. And I can do things like track specific objects like the vehicles behind me, or things that I'm passing by, or things that are off in the distance. The tracking works incredibly well, whether that be if you're doing something fast with some kind of vehicle, or if you're on foot, or if you're just using this on a tripod. It works infinitely better than a lot of gimbal software that I've used in the past, and the stabilization on the ONE X2 is just amazing. As an example, if I look at the multicam footage of that vehicle clip, you can see how bumpy the road is to some extent, but just look how stable it is when I've locked onto something. It just doesn't move. Not only that, but you can do things like pan around all over and adjust your view by using the built-in keyframing features, and you can effectively simulate drone footage, all within this app, and that's made possible because you're essentially capturing every aspect of the scene. That, combined with the camera features, the effects, and the filters, gives you such a broad range of things that you can do with this camera. The Insta360 ONE X2 is usually priced around $400, and I think that's very reasonable considering all the things that this camera can do. If you pick up the standalone kit, it will come with a little pouch or case to store your camera in and protect the touchscreen and the lenses, as well as a cloth to polish or clean the lenses off and a charging cable. I think for sure I would recommend at least getting the invisible selfie stick because it is relatively cheap, hovering around 15 to 20 bucks. And it just adds so much with what you're able to do with this camera. That motorcycle mount bundle is also great for mounting to different things, and I also really like this little lens cover as well. I know that the case included does cover up your lenses, but what I like about this is I can have it on and I can still charge the ONE X2. It's also a little bit easier to slip on and off, and again, it's only about $5 as well, so a lot of this stuff is super affordable. I will leave links to all of this in the description if you're interested in picking any of this Insta360 gear up. Overall, there isn't much not to like about the ONE X2. You can get so creative with this, and I think that's really what owning one of these is all about. You're probably not buying this just to be a simple action cam, but for all that added versatility of literally pointing this to anything in your scene and never missing a shot, which is such a huge game changer. If I could change one thing, it would probably be defaulting that shutter button to not work when the power is off, but that's pretty minor for all you get here. I'd love to know if anyone else out there has a 360 camera and how you use it, so leave a comment if you have one of these things, or if you have questions about them. If you enjoyed this video, commence that like event if you want to see more tech-related content, or if you think that we may have met each other in a dream state in a parallel universe, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next upload.